Alright guys, this video is about UFC 197 being cancelled because of the economic crisis in Brazil. Now, initially, this Anderson Silva said this in a phone call about his upcoming fight with Bisping. Why UFC 197? He thought he'd be fighting in Brazil, but then he was cancelled. He's now fighting in London with Bisping. That's all fine. But then Dana White said, well, that's not correct. UFC 197 wasn't canceled because of the economic crisis in Brazil. They misquoted Anderson Silva. Let me tell you something, man. I believe Anderson Silva in this for two reasons. Number one, Brazil is in an economic crisis. The value of their currency is going down. So any money that you make in Brazil, when you bring that money back into America, you're going to experience what's called a foreign currency loss. Okay? Anderson Silva, when he moved from Brazil to America and he converted his money in Brazilian dollars in the Brazilian banks into American currency, he experienced that loss himself because of maybe a fluctuation in the currency markets. So he knows what he's talking about. He's not just some dumb jack. He knows if UFC 197 goes down in Brazil. Now, usually in countries where there's poverty like that, that's like a luxury item. It's not discretionary spending. As a discretionary spending, it's not a luxury item. The people who can afford it are going to go spend the money and they're going to enjoy it and get it. But once the stadium is sold out and you decide, hey, I'm coming back now to America with that money, you're going to experience a loss because the Brazilian currency is going down in terms of the strength of it to the American currency. I don't know if I'm over explaining. I'll make it simple. Here's some money from, I mean, you can see this. Can you see it? It's some money from my home country. This is going to be $100. And that would be 100. I want an American dollar. If I send this to my home country, it's more of this. If I send this back from my home country to America, it's less of this because the markets fluctuate and this goes down. I need more of this to equal to one of this. That's as simple as I can make it. So I believe Anderson Silva on this. I believe it. Anderson Silva on it. Also, I believe Anderson Silva on it because Viacom, they've had some similar losses also overseas. If you look at their financial statements, in terms of foreign currency adjustment and foreign currency translations in other countries. But in the European market that they're the euro and the pound, I guess the net effect offsets each other because they're operating in two large markets. So I'm still working on the Viacom. I'm still working on the Bellator information. I've researched the Bellator pay. The Bellator pay is, I'm disturbed. Let's just put that mildly. The Bellator pay is way, way less money than the UFC. However, they're allowed to have unlimited sponsors, so that may make up for it. In addition to that, because Viacom is publicly traded and they're the parent company of Bellator, they're the major controlling interest. The financial information is publicly available for Viacom itself. So I want to look at Viacom as a whole entity, its subsidiaries, its competitive mode, why it feel it has to pay its the Bellator fighters such a small amount of money, and what the numbers indicate why they feel they have to do that, even though that's just a large distribution pipeline. Those are the things that I want to look at first. Then I want to come back and present the pay that the fighters get in Bellator, the differences between the UFC and Bellator, and the contracts. And what I found at Bellator has just disturbed me just as much as what I found in the UFC. So I'm extremely disturbed on both sides of why these fighters aren't getting a fair deal. And I can't just say, "Oh, that's just a fight game." No, I don't. I'm not buying that stuff. The money's there. You guys are making the money, and you should be able to pay it out. So I need to, as a fan, I want to find out why. What's the reason why my favorite fighter is being screwed over? King Mo, King Mo, aka Molal, whatever, Mohammed Moal. Yeah, I call him King Mo. That's the name I know him as. He only got 10 grand for his last fight. Same time Tito Ortiz was fighting, and Tito Ortiz got a check for 300,000. So I'm like, the average uh, payout in Bellator is about $1,200 to $1,500, and that's very low. So I want to find out what's going on. I want to dig into those numbers. Then I'm going to come back to you guys and give you the full breakdown. But for right now, I'm believing Anderson Silva and this UFC 197 being canceled because of the economic crisis in Brazil. These guys aren't stupid. And number one, I'm not gonna go into what I do for a living, but let's put it this way: I have a strong background in finance, so I know what Anderson Silva is saying, and that's a strong possible reason. The rest of us aren't stupid. Just because Dana White get on Twitter and say, "Oh well, that's you guys misquoted," and Errol Awani, he's up and he's all of a sudden he's apologizing. Just because of that, I'm not buying it. Okay, I'm not buying it because back and forth between my country and Anderson back and forth between his country with foreign currency. He understands what's going on. He's not stupid. We can't just assume that all these fighters are stupid just because at the press conference Dana White sits up there and says, "Okay, who's next? You're next." Question for Silver. Silver, answer his question. Oh, who's next? Question for Weidman. Weidman, you answer his question. But what I did like though was Conor McGregor was like, "I'm not having that. I want my own press conference. I'm my own man." So Conor McGregor, he had his own press conference. I was like, this guy got some cojones to him. I like you that. So Conor McGregor was like, "Yeah, I'm on my own press conference when I win with my suit. I got my watch. I'm doing my thing, blah, blah." So kind of, I kind of like that. I find it interesting. But just because of that doesn't mean that the fighters are like stupid jocks. They're intelligent guys, so they know what's going on. And particularly Anderson Silva, because of his move from Brazil to the US, he would understand the fluctuation in currency. He has a business, a gym that he's operating in Brazil also. And he understands when that gym makes money in Brazil and he brings that money into America, he can understand the foreign currency exchange loss. I'm sure he looked at his income statement and there it is under other comprehensive income. There is the adjustment, foreign translation loss. And he's saying, okay, what's this here on my income statement? His accountant is going to come over and say, well, it's a foreign currency exchange loss because of the translation of the currency. So, I mean, I'm with Anderson Silva on this. I believe him that was the reason why it was canceled for no other reason. If UFC 197 still goes down in Brazil, you know, I know that it can still happen if the UFC is able to find some bank willing to sell them, willing to allow them to buy a contract for a currency contract for his a contract that would lock the currency in, you know, a hedge, foreign currency hedge contract that will lock the currency at one exchange rate, and then they could do the UFC, and then whatever it is when the money translate, that hedge will protect them against the loss. If they could do that, or they have other investment that will offset the loss, then that's good. But they're not as large as Viacom. So I don't think they have economists, and like finance people working on a team like that. I think they just go there and say, okay, let's balance. I think this is the first time they've actually taken a step back and saying, you know what, based on our numbers, the last time when we did this and we got brought the money back in, these numbers don't indicate that this is the market for us based on the currency exchange. The market for us mainly probably will be the European market where the pound sterling and the euro is much more stronger than the US. And maybe a little in Canada where we can kind of level out when we translate it, when we bring the money back into the US. But for right now, that's not the market for us. And hey, that's understandable. But I believe Anderson Silva. He's not got. I mean, when it came to the Nevada Commission hearing case about the suspension and the steroids, I'm not a doctor, so I wouldn't be able to know whether it's telling the truth or not. But it just sounds logical to me. But being a person that's sends money overseas and get money from overseas, and being just in a similar environment like he is, understanding what's going on in the economy, how it's affect the money I bring into this country, it's been that similar position. I believe Anderson Silva on this. I'm not going with Dana White, and this is Dana White track record for me in terms of telling the truth. It's a bit shaky. And the reason why I said that is first he said that they didn't know Aldo's rib was broken, and he clearly said in the contract that if you say you have an injury like that, the UFC, if you call the UFC and say, "Hey, my rib is broken," in 24 hours their physician is gonna examine you and confirm that and say, "Hey, Dana, this rib is really broken." So the UFC knew his rib was broken. Dana White lied about that. No, he said that GSP was beaten up so bad that he didn't want, he had to retire and all that type of stuff, and and they made some good excuses and they came up with those talking points. Then later on in an interview that GSP did, GSP said no such thing happened. I mean, I left the UFC and I came back and I'm hearing all these things. I'm hearing Dana White say these things, I'm hearing these things in the press, and none of them are true. So like I said before, I believe Anderson Silva on this. I believe that's the reason it was canceled. If anything changes and if I'm wrong, I will update these videos and I'll keep you posted. But for right now, I'm with Anderson Silva on this. I don't care what Errol Awani and the other shells say. I'm with Anderson Silva on this. Straight up. All right, guys, peace out. And today I'm in a different fight chair. This is my business chair because my printer is down here. So I've been printing out all the Viacom financial statements, going through them, looking at the data, looking at the subsidiaries, going through the Bellator contract. Hopefully I should have that for you guys soon. But for meantime, I'm pumped and I'm ready for UFC 195. Ah! It's gonna be on. It's gonna be a slugfest, and I'm excited. Like I said before, I've been watching lots of Andrei Arlovski old school videos. The last one I watched, he smashed up. He royally smashed up Ronda Rousey's boyfriend. Oh, that was sweet. So good. So this time around, I'm expecting to do some banging. I'm expecting Rabdal and Carlos Condit to get down. I'm excited. I just take hey, it's gonna be sweet. I'll be at home with the family. If my family and I should do something else or celebrate some other ways, I may just have it. I may just I'll buy it, then I'll watch it later. But my family's first, so I'm not sure what they have planned yet. But my wife signed my kitchen pass, so I'll probably be able to watch it. I'll let you guys know how it goes down. All right, man. Peace out.